Under the blinding lights of a makeshift war zone set, amid dust, rubble, and the mechanical growl of film equipment, Tom Hardy stood in character, gritty, unshaved, dressed in tattered military gear soaked in artificial blood. The scene they were filming was intense, a controlled explosion sequence that demanded absolute precision. A ruined alleyway had been built to mimic a conflict-ridden Middle Eastern village, and smoke machines painted the air with thick fog. Everything was choreographed to the second. But just as the director called action, a faint, unfamiliar sound cut through the chaos. It wasn't the roar of fire or the clatter of boots. It was a cry, sharp, high-pitched, desperate. Tom's head turned instinctively. Nobody else seemed to notice it. The cast was charging forward, the crew focused on their monitors. He froze. There it was again. A weak, panicked mewling, barely audible over the simulated war zone. He broke character. Cut, he yelled, not as a line, but as a warning. The director blinked, confused. The camera kept rolling. Hardy didn't wait for permission. He tossed his prop rifle to the side, sprinted toward a crumbling pile of faux concrete blocks near the edge of the set. The crew shouted after him, worried he'd hurt himself, angry he'd interrupted the take. But he ignored them. Kneeling, he began shifting debris with bare hands, scraping his knuckles against wire mesh and plaster. Then he saw it, two tiny eyes, terrified and glistening in the dim artificial light. A kitten. Small, no more than a few weeks old, trembling so hard its fur shivered with each breath. It was wedged under a support beam that had accidentally collapsed during setup. Its paw was twisted at an awkward angle, trapped beneath a chunk of foam brick that looked more real than it should have. Jesus, Hardy muttered, his voice raw. Who the hell let animals on set? No one had. Not officially, anyway. Within seconds, another meow. Then another. 3 kittens. The crew finally began to gather, some dropping gear, others frozen. A stuntman cursed under his stick. One of the producers ran over with a walkie, already shouting for a medic and animal control. But Hardy wasn't waiting. He gently lifted the first kitten, whispering to it like it was a child. You're okay. I got you. The second one had crawled deeper into a shadowed crevice under the broken wall. He dropped to his stomach, ignoring the sharp edge of rebar slicing through his costume, and reached in. The kitten scratched at his fingers, confused and frightened, but he coaxed it out, slow and deliberate. The third was silent. Tom's jaw clenched. Someone get me a damn flashlight, he snapped. A PA tossed him a pocket light. He aimed the beam under the rubble. There it was, barely breathing, its sides rising and falling like a broken bellows. A piece of the set had landed squarely across its back. Without hesitation, Hardy wedged his fingers under the edge of the panel. His forearm flexed, veins bulging, the pressure cutting deep into his palms. 2 crew members rushed to help, but he was already lifting more adrenaline than strength. The prop wall shifted just enough. He reached in, scooped the last kitten out, and held it against his chest, its tiny body limp but still warm. Silence fell. Nobody spoke. The explosions had stopped. The cameras had stopped. For a moment, the film set wasn't a film set. It was just a man, covered in dirt and fake blood, holding 3 newborn lives against his heart. And then someone clapped. Only one person. Then another. No applause. Just a kind of stunned respect. A vet was called. The kittens were placed in a warm transport box. They all survived. And Tom Hardy? He didn't say a word about it to the press. He went back to work like nothing had happened, except for one detail. The smallest kitten, the one that had nearly stopped breathing, never left his side again. Back at the trailer, the smallest kitten, jet black with a patch of white across its chest, curled into the crook of Hardy's elbow, fast asleep and completely unaware of the internet storm brewing just outside the perimeter of the set. Someone had leaked a blurry behind-the-scenes photo. Tom Hardy, kneeling in the dust, bloodied by costume and chaos, cradling a kitten in one arm like a soldier lifting a wounded comrade. It went viral before anyone could issue a statement. But Tom didn't care. Fame was a currency he never valued the same way others did. To him, the photo wasn't a moment, it was a responsibility. Over the next few days, he returned to that pile of faux rubble every morning before filming began. He wasn't looking for praise. He was checking, double-checking, making sure no other animal had slipped through the cracks. They hide in quiet places, he told a grip one morning. And quiet places on a movie set? That's where the danger lives. The kittens were treated at a local vet clinic, minor injuries, some dehydration, and that one tiny leg fracture, but they pulled through. Hardy paid for everything without blinking. No receipts, no sponsor deals. When the vet offered to find homes for them, Tom shook his head. They already have one. And just like that, 3 kittens had a new father. One stayed with him full-time, named Flick, by his young daughter after the way its tail flicked when it slept. The other 2 were taken in by close friends of his, people he trusted. He made them promise they'd keep the siblings in contact, like family split up across cities but still bonded by blood. Back on set, something shifted. The crew, hard men and women used to long days and short tempers, started bringing treats in their pockets. Camera assistants left bowls of water just off frame. A dolly grip built a miniature hammock under the crane dolly, just in case Flick wants to watch dailies. Tom, meanwhile, got back into character, but it wasn't the same. The role he was playing, a haunted war veteran with a cracked moral compass, suddenly hit closer to home. There's something about holding a dying thing in your hands, he later told the director quietly between takes. Even if it's tiny, even if it's just a kitten, you look into something's eyes when it's helpless, and you start to wonder if everything else you've ever done even matters. The movie wrapped 2 weeks later. It became one of the year's most talked about films. Not just for the performance, though Hardy's raw, guttural delivery earned him awards buzz, but because people on the crew couldn't stop talking about that day. The day the lead actor dropped everything, not for a stunt, not for a headline, but for 3 lives no one even knew were there. Months passed. Then, during an interview for a late-night talk show, the host joked, "So, rumor has it you stopped mid-explosion to save a cat?" "That true." Hardy gave a sideways smirk. 3, he corrected. "And I'd do it again." The audience laughed, thinking it was a bit. But he wasn't joking. At home, Flick had grown. No longer a trembling ball of fluff, she now prowled Hardy's London apartment like she owned it. She'd sneak onto his lap during script readings, curl around his neck during voiceover sessions, and hiss at anyone who came too close with a boom mic. She was tiny but fierce, and he adored her for it. Then one night, something happened. Rain peppered the windows of Hardy's townhouse like tiny fists, and the city outside slept under a gray English fog. Tom was in his office, barefoot, hoodie up, half a script in one hand, and a cold cup of tea in the other. Flick was curled on his lap, purring like an idling motorcycle, her tail twitching every few seconds like she was dreaming of world domination. Then it happened. A loud crash downstairs. Not a thud, not a creak. A crash, glass shattering, something heavy falling, a chair toppling over. Tom froze. Flick's ears shot up. They both stared at each other, and for a brief second, it felt like a scene from one of his own movies. Hardy put the script down slowly. Then, deadpan. "Well, guess it's not the Amazon guy." Without hesitation, he stood up, carefully placing Flick on the chair like a royal heir, and tiptoed toward the hallway. His military training from past film roles kicked in like muscle memory. He moved like a panther, silent and precise. Years of playing gangsters and special ops weren't just for the big screen. Downstairs, the living room light flickered. He could see shadows moving through the frosted glass of the front hallway. 2 figures. Maybe 3. Burglars. They had picked the wrong bloody house. Tom didn't go for a phone. He didn't shout. He didn't wait. He grabbed the nearest thing he could find, a fire poker. Not fancy. Not theatrical. Just a long, cold iron rod that felt like justice in his hand. One deep breath. He launched himself down the stairs like a storm in boots. The first guy didn't even see it coming. Hardy barreled through the entryway with a war cry that could have won him another Oscar. "Oi, you looking for trouble or just tea, you wankers?" The man nearest the doorway dropped what looked like a crowbar and spun. Too late. Wham! Fire poker met shin with the force of 1,000 angry cockneys. He went down screaming. The second intruder panicked, tried to climb over the couch, slipped on Flick's plush mouse toy, and face-planted into the coffee table with a dramatic crack. Tom pounced like a rugby player in a grudge match, flipping the coffee table out of the way with one arm and dragging the guy by his hoodie toward the door. "Ever heard of knocking, mate?" The third guy? He never even made it past the window. Apparently, Flick had leapt off the second-story banister like some feline assassin, landed right in front of him on the windowsill, and hissed with the fury of an ancient Egyptian god. The man screamed. Not a normal scream. A "that cat knows my sin" type of scream. He turned and yeeted himself back through the shattered window he came from, screaming, "I'm allergic," into the night. Police arrived minutes later to find 2 grown men tied together with Tom's Brazilian jiu-jitsu belts and one very smug kitten sitting atop the TV like a tiny gargoyle. One of the officers asked Hardy how he managed to stay so calm. He shrugged. "Mate, I've done scenes with DiCaprio in a freezing river. This was foreplay." The story, of course, exploded in the tabloids. Tom Hardy fights off burglars with fire poker and pet cat became the headline of the week. Memes were born. Someone photoshopped him and Flick as Batman and Robin. Another made a trailer, this summer, one man and one kitten, against the night. But the best part? Hardy donated the entire reward offered for helping catch the burglars to an animal rescue shelter. When asked why, he simply said, "They were the real heroes. I just did what Flick told me." In the weeks that followed, Tom Hardy and Flick became an unlikely duo of internet legend. News anchors couldn't stop talking about it. Morning shows tried to book him. Late-night hosts begged him to bring the cat. Even the Metropolitan Police posted a cheeky tweet. "Next time you break into a house, make sure it's not the one guarded by Tom Hardy and his feline unit." Hashtag justice served, hashtag Flick the Fury. Tom, ever the introvert when it came to fame, didn't ride the wave. He stayed low, continued filming his next project, a gritty drama about a war medic with PTSD, and brought Flick with him everywhere. On set, she had her own trailer. A director's chair with her name stitched on the back. Someone even made her a tiny bulletproof vest labeled security. But Hardy knew something had changed, not just in public perception, but in him. The entire experience, from the moment he heard those helpless meows on set to the night Flick helped scare off burglars, had grounded him in a strange, beautiful way. He started volunteering quietly, discreetly, at a small rescue shelter just outside of London. No cameras, no press. Just a man in a hoodie, cleaning litter boxes and fixing broken fences. He funded a mobile vet van for street animals. Hired an animal behaviorist to consult on sets to prevent incidents like the kitten's near-death from ever happening again. One rainy afternoon, as he sat in his kitchen, tea finally hot for once, script untouched, he looked down at Flick, now sprawled across the table like she owned the mortgage, and muttered, "You know, I've faced fake explosions, real stunts, angry critics, and even Shia LaBeouf, but nothing scares me more than losing you." Flick blinked at him slowly. A single, slow, approving blink. The kind that says, "You'll do, human." Then came the final chapter, unexpected, heartfelt, and fully Hardy. At the UK Animal Welfare Gala that December, Tom made a surprise appearance. No red carpet. No entourage. He walked in with Flick nestled in a custom leather sling across his chest like a royal baby. The room went silent. He was asked to say a few words. He stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand, spotlight casting a soft glow over the audience. He cleared his throat. "I'm not great at speeches," he began. "I pretend to be other people for a living. But this story, this one's mine." He paused, eyes scanning the room. Flick peeked her head out and yawned, to a collective awe from the crowd. "See, I didn't save her. She saved me. Reminded me that heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes, they wear whiskers and claw your face when they want attention." Laughter. "I didn't set out to be a headline. I just heard something small, scared, and ignored. And I couldn't do nothing. That's it. That's the story." He looked down at Flick, then back at the audience. "So if you take anything from this, whether you're a celebrity, a builder, a bus driver, it's this. The size of the life doesn't matter. The fact that it's a life does." Thunderous applause. The video went viral again. But this time, it wasn't for the fight. It was for the feeling. Tom Hardy, the actor, the fighter, the icon, became Tom Hardy, the man who listened when no one else did. And Flick? She slept through the whole thing, drooling on his shirt like she knew she had already won the world over. The end.